All right, we're live. Let them know. Someone go tell them.
Twitch.tv/YANDG News.
You want to? Are we good?
We are good as far as I know.
And we're live in 5, 4, 3.
Hi, I'm Melissa Schultz, and I'm here with the 3 youth governor candidates. Each of you have 2 minutes to go over your platforms. You can go first, yeah. Aiden will go first.
Hi everyone, my name is Aiden Blaine, and I'm running with the Avocado and Poppy parties to serve as your 72nd youth governor. Thank you. So my platform is mainly based around what we can change in YNG. I think as the youth governor, we have the power to actually do that. Meeting with the youth board, there are things that we can change in YNG to improve the experience for all delegates. For example, right now, I think that our program is just too expensive. As a delegate on financial aid, I know the burden of this program. It's over $1,500. One of the ways I would combat that is creating a YNG Alumni Association and expanding our current one because we can do better. Right now, we don't reach out to our alumni on the level we could, and I believe that if we expanded and have mentorship opportunities, fundraisers, and youth and government reunions, we'd be able to bring our alumni back into the program and have them actually give back and lower the program costs so every delegate can participate regardless of their financial background. Secondly, one of the other things I'd love to change about our program is creating a YNG Legislative Day. Right now, for all of those bill sponsors who have these amazing bills, nothing happens to them. And that's because they go to the governor's desk, but it's more of a symbolic tradition in my opinion. I think that if we had a day dedicated for bill sponsors from YNG to go to the Capitol building and directly advocate their bills to elected representatives, we'd be able to get our YNG bills turned into official state law. I'm actually working with the California Association of Student Counselors right now to make that happen, and next year, they already love the idea of bringing up YNG bills for a legislative day. Additionally, within the program, one of the biggest things, especially since I'm talking to media, from day one, my platform has been expanding the outreach of media. I think that media is one of the best program areas because you create the content that everything in YNG revolves around. Yet no one ever sees that content, and that's not right. And I know that some of my friends have been in media the past 3 years, and they've always done interviews with me, but I never know where to find it. So essentially, as youth governor, I want to expand the media's influence in the program and promote it at joint session. Put it in the pamphlets, put it on our badges so everyone can know where your content is, and maybe even go back to having the kind of morning and nightly news where everyone in the program can tune in and see what's going on. So, additionally in YNG, I would love to expand the influence of small delegation candidates. As a delegate from a small delegation, my freshman year we had less than 20 people, and a lot of the time I felt like I really couldn't do anything within YNG because I was from a small delegation and my voice essentially didn't matter. So what I want to do is create a double voting system where you wouldn't vote twice for the same candidate, but you would be able to vote for that candidate within your delegation and then also vote for a candidate outside of your delegation. Because a lot of the time, the big delegations vote for their candidate, rightfully so. I understand delegation loyalty, but they should also have that option to vote for the candidate outside of their delegation. So the election process can be more equitable for the small delegation candidates, ultimately providing representation for small delegations.
I'm sorry, but the speaker's time is elapsed.
Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Piper Samuels from the Culver Palms Family YMCA. And I'm running with the Grizzly, Redwood, and Trout parties to serve as your 72nd youth governor. So essentially my platform for YNG focuses around the 2 issues that I greatly see within our program. The first is that our program is not equitable for all delegates. We don't give all delegates the same opportunities to succeed and thrive and change our world that they need. So first, Aiden mentioned that our program is incredibly expensive. I agree. So I do want to expand our financial aid system by expanding the Future Leaders campaign. Right now, the Future Leaders campaign starts at TNE2 and it ends in Sacramento, which gives you exactly 1 month or less to fundraise all the money for scholarships for our delegates. 1 month is not enough. Delegates who are lower income deserve way more time dedicated to fundraising for scholarships, so I think we should expand the Future Leaders campaign to start earlier in the year and end later in the year. Second, with the money earned from the Future Leaders campaign expansion, I think that we need to be providing meal plans to lower income delegates. Many of our delegates qualify for free or reduced meals at school, but then they come to Sacramento and they're suddenly expected to pay for their own 3 meals a day at expensive restaurants that they never would have otherwise had to go to. It puts such a burden on families who are lower income, and frankly, it's just not right that our delegates aren't given the resources they need. So I think by connecting with restaurants in Sacramento to provide meals at a lower cost for delegates who need these meal plans, and with money from financial aid, we can create a more equitable YNG. Secondly, our caucuses exist to empower marginalized delegates within our program, but right now, they don't have any direct power. They just get to meet and then it's over, it's nothing. They don't get to change the program at all, but they have so many amazing changes that I think are so necessary within our program. So this is why I propose to allow our caucuses to propose their ideas for change to the board of directors directly, because nothing in this program gets changed without the board. I've talked to Scott, I've talked to Paul Cahill, and they've tried passing bills to get their policies implemented, and it never works because you have to go to the board directly. So I think we need to give our caucuses a greater voice. Thirdly, I think one thing that is a huge issue within YNG is that we aren't exposed to the real world as much as we should be. We have amazing ideas, we have amazing candidates, we have amazing proposals for change, ways we can help our state in so many different aspects, and yet people just see us as a mock government program. They don't know that we're actually coming up with viable solutions. So I want to allow our media program, which is you guys, and also the activism aspect of youth in government, to advocate our ideas to real news networks between conferences, because yes, our bills do go to the governor's desk, but the government's not listening, and sometimes if you want to be heard, you have to make yourselves heard through media, through news outreach. And fourth and finally, I wish to create a YNG exchange program. So I attended the Conference on National Affairs this summer and met delegates from across the country. It was super fun. We got to learn a lot about how we run our programs throughout the state. So I think it would be a great opportunity to improve our program if we created a YNG exchange program where we could all help each other benefit as a country. Thank you. My name is Piper Samuels, and I'm running to serve as your 72nd Youth Governor.
Hi, my name is Bio Collins from the Greater Long Beach delegation. I'm going to be your 72nd Youth Governor from the Gold Party. So I have 3 main points that I'd like to address as your Youth Governor. First being the caucuses. I think that as I was campaigning this year, I was invited to a few caucuses, and then I realized that as I was going around, I could only attend one. And I felt that that was I just couldn't understand that, that students would have to decide within themselves, who do I want to be for an hour? I can be a queer delegate, I can be a delegate of color, I can be a female leadership of a woman in power, and then I have to pick which meeting I want to go to. To me, that just didn't make sense. So what I'd like to do is to just make sure that the caucuses are at different times, at different days, so that it would reduce the percent of the chance that you would have to attend a meeting that you want to go to. So basically what I do is I break up the caucuses into different days, like one Friday, one Saturday, one Sunday, and essentially that way it reduces the chances of you having conflicting interests. Also, I noticed that a lot of Forum kids feel really disconnected from the program, as if they're not here, we don't really interact with them, and they're just, they're almost being like to have training wheels. They don't necessarily all need that. So what I was proposing is for the Forum kids to go through training elections 1 and 2, and then when they get to Sacramento, they're put with a multi-year delegate that can show them the ropes, take them around, and allow them to fully participate with everyone else because they deserve that opportunity. I was talking to the party chair for Forum, and he really likes the idea. They already have things like that in place where they're taking certain delegates and putting them straight into YNG, so we can definitely do something similar to that and put an immediate change for next year. I also wanted to propose a ranked voting system for youth in government. By doing a ranked voting system, that would make sure that the candidate that wins is the majority for all of YNG and not just like a top-heavy candidate. So that would make it would make it a lot more fair for smaller delegations and people that have less representation to lose a delegation that have a lot of support. So basically what that means is, it means that the candidate that has the majority wins because you have to have a 50+1% vote to win. So essentially, you might not have your number 1 candidate win, but at least your number 2 will win. So you won't end up with someone that you absolutely did not like. So those are my platforms. Thank you.
First question is, if you could change only one thing about YNG, what would you change?
So the first thing that I would change about YNG, if I could only change one, is definitely the issue with that this program favors the wealthy within its cost and also within its treatment of lower class individuals once they enter the program. The way I would go about this, as I explained earlier, is expanding the Future Leaders Campaign and also allowing delegations to campaign for the Future Leaders Campaign themselves, because I think there are a lot of resources within our cities that we could be using to expand our financial aid system and give this program to people who can't otherwise afford it. And then I think once we attract lower income delegates and people who can't afford the crazy prices of this program, we have to be making sure that we are treating them equitably and with the resources they need to thrive, which is why I propose giving them meal plans in Sacramento. Thank you.
Okay. If you could change only one thing about YNG, what would you change?
In a perfect world, I'd love for YNG to be a lot more affordable because I'm a delegate that also is only here because of a scholarship. And I just think that it's very important that we make this program available to everyone. I definitely want to see it at least, maybe not even available at every YMCA, but at least have some flyers, let people know, okay, this particular location doesn't have YNG, but this one across town does. At the very least, I just like everyone to know about it, and I want us to be heard around the world. I want what we're doing here so people would really know about it, because we do a lot of great work, but it's just not being heard. So that's what I'd love to have.
Next question. Or, sorry.
Sure. Well, I think if I could fundamentally change one thing about YNG, it would be having a diversity of perspectives and expanding the opportunity that every delegate gets within our program. Specifically, providing those small delegations with a better chance to be elected through our systems, so those small delegation candidates can get elected and better represent the majority and that huge population of small delegations we have in our program. Additionally, I think the caucuses and their diversities of opinions need to be shown within YNG. I think that the governor's responsibility is to make sure that YNG is not centralized around one issue, and that the caucuses, regardless of their background, are included in youth and government. And I think that a really effective way would be putting all representatives from each caucus on the GovCap.
Next. How would you deal with the issue of small delegations feeling underrepresented?
How I would deal with that issue is basically what I said about the ranked choice voting, because essentially what that does is it eliminates the advantage of certain larger delegations that we all know about that have the ability to really push a candidate, and it instills a fear that you almost can't do it. And part of the reason why I'm running is to show people that you don't need to be from a big delegation to make it to the finals of youth governor. You don't need to be a big delegation to make change happen in this program at all. But not everyone has that within themselves, and they need a push from someone else like myself to just let them know that they can do that. So that's why I want a system where the 50+1% majority means that they can feel like, hey, I have a chance to do this.
Yeah, I think being from a small delegation myself as well, less than 20 people in my freshman year, I think that I've already talked to you about this, I'm not going to be repetitive here, the elections need to be more equitable for small delegations, but I also believe that the delegation presidents from those small delegations need to be included into the program. Because one of the biggest things from a small delegation, you're not connected to that central information in youth and government, and a lot of the time you don't know what's going on, you don't know what you can apply for, you don't know what position you could run for. As a sophomore, I really wanted to run for a position or apply for something, but I had no idea how to do that. So essentially, I think the media program should use their influence in the program to show small delegations the opportunities that are available to them. So I think that getting those small delegations aware of their opportunities is the first step to getting them represented in the program.
I'm sorry, but the
Thank
2
you.
minutes left.
Hi, once again, I'm Piper Samuels, running to serve as your 72nd Youth Governor. And yes, I believe that there is such inequity between small delegations and big delegations within our program. And of course, I support topics such as ranked choice voting and other ways, any way in which we can combat this disparity between delegation sizes, I would support. But one way that I think we can directly empower small delegations is by allowing small delegation caucus to propose their ideas for change to the board of directors. The small delegation caucus needs to be prioritized among small delegations because it brings small delegations together. It allows them to act as a bloc. It allows them to act as a big delegation and gives them the power they need. So once they're allowed to propose their ideas to the board of directors, we can finally empower all small delegations. Thank you.
What is your stance on the decriminalization or legalization of drugs?
I support the decriminalization of drugs. I think that our justice system is based on inequality, and I think that a lot of the time, people from low-income communities get the burden of that inequality. And I think a lot of that has to do with the criminalization of drugs. I think that we should eliminate mandatory minimum sentencing. I think that one of the biggest problems with drug use is minor drug inflictions. People go to jail, and with our privatized prison system, they have that kind of incentive to send more people to jail. So I think that if we abolish privatized prisons and basically decriminalize drug use and have those people who are sent to jail off minor drug offenses not have that and put to rehabilitation, that would improve our justice system overall.
I 100% support the decriminalization of drugs because drug addiction is a condition. It's not a crime, it's a condition and should be treated as such. So by decriminalizing drugs, we can further put the money that we spend on punishment for drug crimes and we can relocate that to rehabilitation services and actually making sure that those who are convicted of drug crimes stay out of the prison system and get rehabilitated successfully. I think one issue is that there's a disparity between the way crack and cocaine are sentenced within our country, and I think that is fully wrong because if you look at the war on drugs, the reason that crack was given such a higher sentence was because people of color primarily used it, and that is blatant racism that exists within our system. We need to abolish that policy and make sure that our drug laws are equal and acting as a way of helping those suffering from drug addiction, not punishing them. Thank you.
I definitely think that we should decriminalize drugs just because being addicted to drugs is a condition, it's a sickness, it's not something that you need to be shackled for the rest of your life for 20 and 30 years. I think that there shouldn't be as many, you shouldn't sentence someone to a long time for carrying a small amount of marijuana or something like that, like getting a slap on the wrist or something like that. I think that after marijuana is legalized, some of those people should be let out of jail simply because it's not illegal anymore. And I just think that, like Piper had said about crack cocaine, the purpose of that was to put more black people in jail and continue the injustices of the 13th Amendment and things like that. So yeah, I definitely think that drugs should be viewed as a sickness and something that needs to be improved upon rather than, punishing someone for their just. I feel like, instead of putting someone in jail, they need to go into rehabilitation. That's what it basically boils down to.
Where do you think the money should come from to invest in renewable energy?
So I think investing in renewable energy is necessary, especially in a developed country that emits so many carbon emissions and other greenhouse gases. So I think one way in which we can get money for funding renewable energy resources is taxing non-renewable corporate companies that use non-renewable energy. I think if you are contributing to climate change, you need to contribute to the government with your money to help combat that issue that you are causing. I think we can get the money from corporations who are causing the problem to help find a solution. Thank you.
I definitely think that the companies that are part of the problem should definitely help pay for it and should be taxed accordingly. I think that companies, let's say they have an oil spill or something like that, are not only responsible for cleaning it up, but also to donate money towards a better cause of finding new forms of fuel and stuff like that. So I definitely think that the corporations that are part of the problem should be taxed heavily and should be a part of the solution because at the end of the day, when those companies are most likely going to switch to renewable energy themselves, so it would essentially be helping them.
Yeah, so whether we like it or not, renewable energy is the future of our state and our country, and we need to act with that. So essentially, we have our general fund, and I think if we invested in renewable infrastructure, and with that, we can support renewable energy sources while also providing jobs for our homeless and veteran communities that often aren't given those jobs that they need. So if we put money into programs like cap and trade, where we pretty much limit the carbon emissions from companies, and we ensure that there's still economic competition, but we protect our environment, and at the same time give jobs to those homeless and veteran communities, we'd be supporting renewable energy while also helping to get people off the streets. Thank you.
How would you change the caucus system so they are more involved in the YNG as a whole?
I definitely think that, I know Scott Nakatoshi had put into place that caucuses should have legislation, but I wasn't even aware of that, you know. I think that some of the caucuses aren't even sure that they're able to do that, so I think that's one way they can be more involved. That caucuses should be able to create bills themselves and put them into the Assembly and the Senate and have their bills passed just like the other delegates do. I think that grassroots things like Bella did with the Women's March, caucuses should be able to have things like that. They should be able to have events like at the MLK and TNE too. They should be able to throw things like that and, you know, really make themselves be known, organize themselves, and truly show how powerful a group they are.
So I think caucuses should be more connected to the issues and activism program. Because I think a lot of the time, issues and activism, that's kind of the program area for creating change outside of the program. And a lot of the time, these caucuses want to do something outside of the program. So if we connected the caucuses and the issues and activism program areas and held events outside of youth and government or at conferences, those program areas would be able to expand the influence of, for example, flip delegates. For example, queer delegates who wanted to do something within YNG and make their voices heard, even if they don't have that program area, they'd be participating with issues and activism. Thank you.
I think aside from allowing caucuses to propose their ideas for change directly to the board of directors, one issue with the caucus system is that caucuses take place during social time, which, you know, Sacramento and our conferences get really stressful, and I think sometimes our delegates need their social time, but they shouldn't have to sacrifice being empowered for their different identities and different ways in which they're marginalized within our program in order to get that necessary social time. We have a lot of sessions that are so unnecessary, that are spent doing nothing but icebreakers, so I think if we change the way that we schedule the program, providing time specifically for caucuses, not for social time, we can further empower our delegates within the caucus system. Thank you.
Which of your party's planks are most important to you and why?
Okay, so I'm from the Avocado Party, and I think that the most important plank to me is classifying sexual assault as a violent felony. I think that oftentimes in our society, we have a culture where we kind of brush off sexual assault and don't treat it as a real crime, and I think that needs to change. I think sexual assault needs to be classified just as a violent felony, just as battery and assault in real life is, and I think that overlooking these issues just because they're around sexual like relations is completely wrong, and I think that sexual assault and sexual assault accusers and those people need to be heard, and their voice needs to be heard in the justice system, and classifying sexual assault as a violent felony would do so. Thank you.
So I'm actually running with the Grizzly, the Redwood, and the Trout parties to serve as your 72nd Youth Governor. And both the Grizzly and Redwood parties have planks that protect environmental conservation, which I think is extremely necessary, not only for our state, but for the entire globe at this moment. We're going to reach an ecological tipping point where there is no return, so I think any and all measures taken to protect the environment are necessary. I've also been endorsed by the Environmental Protection Agency, so I think that as a state, we need to further expand our EPA, we need to further protect the environment and make sure that we are conserving the few resources that we have left. Thank you.
So I'm running with the Gold Party, and I think that the plank that I most identify with is definitely like criminal justice reform. I just think that it's a travesty that our Constitution states that if you are incarcerated, you are viewed as a slave to the eyes of the state and the country. And I think something like that, that simple framework, that sneaky wording in our Constitution has led to just a snowball effect of injustices throughout our country. You know, we have privatized prisons, we have people profiting off of punishment, and it's just become just a disgusting system, and it's horrible. So I'm definitely an advocate for changing that and cleaning up our laws and making it more fair for everybody. Thank you.
Do you believe the voting age should be changed and why?
Do I answer this one first? The voting age should be lowered. So yes, I do think we should lower our voting age to 16. I think we in Youth in Government are a perfect representative of why the youth should have a voice within our government. I think we are passing bills that could potentially solve so many issues: homelessness, we could protect the environment, we could be solving the issue of sexual assault victims not getting justice. So I think if we are given the voice to lower the voting age to 16, then we can finally have the opportunity to do so. I'm actually in charge of a group in Culver City called Vote 16 Culver City, and we are working to get a ballot measure on the ballot for 2020. So this is something I 100% support. It's a plank of the trial parties, and I think lowering the voting age to 16 is absolutely necessary. Thank you.
I think that lowering the voting age is a good idea because I think that we've all proven that we're all very capable of making good decisions. Teenagers do a lot more than people give us credit for. We're responsible for a lot more things than maybe adults think that we do. We manage our schedule, we do all these things, go to school, extracurriculars, jobs. And I think that at this age, we are definitely capable of making our own decisions, at least locally. We've proven that in school elections, ASB, YNG, we've proven that we're definitely smart enough and mature enough to be able to do those types of things. I think if you get behind the wheel of a car, you should be able to vote. It seems pretty self-explanatory to me. Thank you.
I firmly believe that the voting age should be lowered. I think that it should specifically be lowered in municipal elections or elections of our school board representatives occur. Because if our school board representatives are representing us in our school districts, why shouldn't we vote for them? They are our representation and we should have that voice. Additionally, outside of YNG, I've actually started an online teen voter platform. It's called IamAteenVoter.com if you want to check it out. I just dropped the site a few days ago. And it's essentially a platform where teens can register, pre-register to vote, and it has opportunities to get involved in your area, as well as a discussion forum so we can discuss political ideas that may be of difference, but at the same time learning about new perspectives and encouraging teenagers to get involved in politics.
Do you think there needs to be a change in the YG dress code, and if so, why?
I think that, I do think so. I considered bringing my cultural attire to wear to YNG, but wasn't sure if it fit the guidelines, if it was appropriate. Western attire is not what people wear around the world to necessarily look professional. I think that if your cultural wear should count as something that's YNG appropriate, like a hijab should be able to count. Even a do-rag should count. That's cultural attire. It's associated with something that's negative, but it's cultural attire. So I think that things around those guidelines should be allowed. I think that we should be a little more lenient in accepting other cultures and what other people wear, and we should definitely reform that type of thing to accept all the forms of beautiful people we have in this program because that's what they say that they want, but they're not showing it with our dress code. Thank you.
I completely support changing our dress code. I think female delegates are disproportionately affected by our dress code, and I see my fellow delegates going back to their rooms at night with blood on their feet and blisters at the back of their shoes, and that's not right. Let's be real here. Guys have it easier, and that's not fair, and the YNG dress code needs to be changed so those women in our program have more comfortable clothing and they can participate and feel more comfortable at conferences, because if you're uncomfortable and your feet are bleeding, you're going to be less likely to be actively engaged in discussion than you are if you're comfortable. So I completely support changing our dress code to make it more fair for women.
As a woman myself, of course, I've seen the negative effects of our YNG dress code. Of course, not being forced to wear heels, but we're obviously encouraged to wear high heels. We're encouraged to wear shoes that hurt, but I just want to wear Doc Martens, They look cute with more outfits. I think I wore them the other day, and I got in trouble for wearing them because they didn't match my sack. They weren't technically sack attire. So I think we shouldn't be policing people on what to wear. Dressing is a form of expression, and I think we should be inhibiting all forms of expression. Also, I think the dress code isn't fair for taller girls because now there's a rule that your skirts have to reach your knees, and if you're almost 6 feet tall, there's no way that you're gonna buy a skirt that reaches your knees unless it's from the 1910s, 1890s, really early on, So I think we should expand our dress code as dressing is a form of expression. Thank you.
This is a question for In your platform, you propose creating a YG News program for media to post their content. What advantages do your news programs have over the currently existing website in which media posts their content?
Yeah, so I think that the idea kind of got a little bit confused when it was being talked about. The idea is not to create a new YNG news network, it's to expand the media's current YNG news network. Because one of my biggest problems with our media program right now is I think your content is amazing, yet no one sees it outside of the media program, and I want that to change. So essentially, what I would do as governor is make sure at joint session and on our pamphlets and on our name badges, we have the links to the media news networks that you already have, so your content can be seen by delegates outside of the media program. Yes, thank you.
This is for Piper. How will you get funding for your plan to provide delegates with meals at SAC?
That's a great question. So first, I want to expand our Future Leaders campaign to start earlier in the year and end much later in the year. Right now, we're only given 1 month to fundraise for scholarships, which is absolutely absurd. But also, I think reaching out to the restaurants within Sacramento itself would be an amazing way to fund this program, because not only would restaurants, I think, be empathetic to the issues that our delegates are facing with expensive meals, but it would also encourage more business for the restaurants, because more people would be buying from the restaurants and not just bringing cup of noodles because they can't afford to eat at them. So I think by reaching out to restaurants and expanding the Future Leaders campaign, we will be able to fund a program that provides meal plans to lower income delegates. Thank you.
This is for Graham. Your platform provides integrating Forum into the main body of YNG. Some people feel that Forum is a good introduction to YNG and should be kept as is. Why do you think this program should be changed, and what would be benefit of this change?
So speaking to a lot of Forum delegates, they feel that, I've spoken to a lot of people, they feel that it's a good introduction, but also not everyone in there needs their hand held, and sometimes the best thing to do is just to show people the real, So what's already in place is that certain delegates that are in MUN for 3 years, they're getting asked to go straight to YNG and skip the Forum. So I think that proposing some sort of compromise to where certain delegates that aren't ready can stay in Forum, but certain delegates that are ready to go into SAC directly and go into MLC have the option of skipping Forum.
How would you propose a change in the current meal system for SAC to better accommodate lower income delegates?
Is that a question for me directly? Oh, well, this is a perfect question for my platform. My platform directly combats this issue. I've yammered on for long enough about how I would propose to attack this issue. So, meal plans for lower income delegates, completely necessary, partnering with restaurants and expanding FLC. I think you probably all get the gist by now, so yeah, thank you.
The plan that I would put into place is, given that I have a business background, what I would do is try and talk to all the owners of these businesses and say, hey, maybe the delegates in this program can have some sort of discount while they're here. It will bring in more business. It will benefit them. And I also think I think that the program should run like a college, On my brother's campus, they have a card and it goes towards their food for all these campuses, and it's slightly reduced price, and if you were to buy it through just cash. So I think something like that would definitely be possible. I also think that, maybe the way they have a SAC Rack coupon, I think there should be some sort of food incentive just like that. So that would be my idea.
Yeah, so one thing I think that is a major difference between Fresno and Sacramento is that in Fresno, the food is provided. I think that in Sacramento, if the youth and government administration, they provided food for delegates and essentially had kind of a dining hall area where the food was provided, so we didn't have to do meal plans. So delegates of lower income don't even have to think about spending money because the food is already there for them, provided from YNG, and YNG has the money to do that. And if they actually invested in that cafeteria and had an area where low-income delegates could get their food in Sacramento, that would be extremely effective.
How would you address the issue of California's large homeless population?
I would address this issue by making, I think for one, housing needs to be a lot more affordable. Definitely supporting our veterans coming back home from war and stuff. Because when I'm taking the train to school, I'm looking out the window and I see all these homeless people on the street, their shopping carts and stuff like that. and it forces a lot of people to think they need to move out the neighborhood because they bring down the value of what's going on in the neighborhood and stuff. So I definitely think that in order to help people, we need to invest in more into programs like soup kitchens and stuff like that, and things that will help people get back on their feet, to rehabilitate them, put them in the programs that teach them how to get a job, give them clothes to go get work, help them build their resume and things like that, so they can get back on their feet on their own and don't need our support and help.
I think that the answer is very simple for how to solve this kind of homeless problem. It has two main points. We have to address the mental health aspect, but we also have to create jobs for those people to get off the streets. One of the biggest things, if you look back during the Great Depression, when there were so many people on the streets and homeless, we created public work projects. And I think a really effective way our government can help solve this problem is to support renewable energy infrastructure that gives jobs to homeless people in our state. Because I think a lot of the time, these homeless people would work if they could have a job. And I think once we address that mental health aspect and get them through the rehabilitation, we need to integrate them back into society and give them a job so they can make money and keep a roof over their heads. Thank you.
I think the issue with just providing homeless people with jobs is a lot of jobs don't even allow homeless people to apply to begin with. A lot of the times in order to get a job, you have to check a box that you have a home, you have to put down your address, and I think a lot of jobs are discriminatory towards the homeless. We can try soup kitchens, we can try programs, but the only way that actually works in giving homeless people the help that they need in order to get back on their feet is providing them with homes. It costs initially more, but once you have a home, you can finally have a place to sleep at night, you can have a place to fill out your forms to apply for jobs. It's been shown in other countries and in communities where they have better affordable housing programs to work much more effectively than minor programs like soup kitchens and just providing them with jobs. So I think we actually need to be working to give the homeless people homes directly, and then that can serve as an investment in their future in our economy to help further fund affordable housing in the future. Thank you.
What current political issue are you most passionate about?
Yeah, so I think the biggest political issue that I'm most passionate about right now is climate change. I think that it's undeniable that climate change is the biggest issue facing our world, and I think that the biggest way to solve that is to limit the amount of right now, companies are one of the biggest contributors to global warming, and I think that limiting them and basically providing regulations so we can protect our environment is the way to do it. And I think transitioning our country over to renewable means of production, basically subsidizing renewable energy industries and allowing our country to go off fossil fuels. Because fossil fuels are not sustainable, and if we keep using them in our country and our world, we will not have an environment in 150 years. We will be a barren wasteland, and I think that we need to address it now so that doesn't happen.
So for California specifically, I think the number one issue that we as a state, I do agree that climate change is an important issue for everyone to focus on. But if we're looking specifically at California, our biggest issue right now is homelessness. California holds over 25% of the entire country's homelessness population, which is absolutely absurd considering we have the wealthiest economy in the country. We have the 5th wealthiest economy in the state. In the world. Sorry, I'm mixing up all my words this morning. But I think homelessness is the biggest issue that California faces, and considering the fact that we do have the money to solve this issue, we need to be prioritizing giving our people the justice that they deserve. They should not be living on the streets. It's an absolute epidemic that we need to be solving. Thank you.
I think the biggest issue we're facing is gun violence in particular. I think that we shouldn't have any more presentations like we had the other day saying another year, no more silence, stuff like that. Like, I'm tired of seeing those, I think that we need to address the mental health issues of people to make sure that background checks, we need to have universal background checks. I want to regulate the amount of bullets one person can buy. I want to eliminate automatic firearms from the general public. I think that handguns are enough to be able to protect yourself in your general communities. I don't think that, I think that in order to buy a gun, you need to go to like a psychiatrist and be able to pass a certain regimen of questions and things like that to make sure that you're capable of having such a powerful weapon on your person. I think that people kill people, not guns. So we need to be more responsible with who we allow to have guns, how many bullets they have, and things like that, because it's just absolutely disgusting, how many mass shootings we have as a country, as developed as we claim to be, and we're just looking really bad in the whole grand scheme of things in the world right now. Thank you.
What previous experiences do you think make you the most qualified to be youth governor?
The previous experience that I have, this is my second year in the program. I served as Speaker Pro Tem in the Red Assembly last year. That was an amazing experience. Loved the Ledge House. I started a hip hop club at my school this year. I'm the president of that. I also did mock trial at my school, cross examination, things like that, direct examination. I do beach cleanups. What else? Recycle. I like recycling. Yeah, so I also, YNG, that's also part of my experience. What else do I do? I also I got invited to a youth board meeting the other day to speak on behalf of all of you in the YMCA to get funding. So I'm getting out there doing more, but I also have all those experiences that make me great. Thank you.
I think a youth governor needs to have two main places of experiences, and one is within our program, and one is with connecting with the world outside of our program. So within our program, I've ran for a position before. I was former chief clerk of the assembly. I've written a bill that got 7 endorsements and was signed by the youth governor, and I was awarded legislator of the year. But beyond that, I also attended the Conference on National Affairs and interacted with delegates from across the country. I serve on the board of the Clover Palms Family YMCA, so I know how to run a YMCA. I know how it works. I know how we can work with donors. I know how we can work with different developments building in the area. And also, I'm currently interning for the Culver City government, so I know how the government works at large. I know how our program works. I know how our government works. I know how the YMCA works. And overall, I just think that these are the qualities necessary in someone leading a program as large as this one. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think real-world experience is extremely important in youth government because our program is representing what the real government is like. And in my school district, I'm the representative for our district board of education. And essentially what we do is every 2 weeks we have a board meeting, and parents, students, and anyone who has concerns within our district comes to the board meeting and addresses them. So essentially, as a board member, I'm representing 11,000 students in my school district, and I'm advocating for what they want. So essentially, one of the biggest things I'm doing right now is making sure that we don't have plastic water bottles on campus by providing drinking water fountains that are not, that basically you fill up your water bottle at the fountain. Additionally, I've interned for Paul Koretz, he's a city council member, and I have experience
on the
with
camera
politics.
is
I know how to
focus
advocate
on
for
or is it on
policy.
manual focus?
I'm able to bring that.
I should talk to you. Yeah, Wait.
How would you change political parties so there's less polarization between members of each party?
So I ran originally with the Trout Party, and I have experienced many of the negative effects of a party system that does not fully represent all of its delegates. I don't agree with every single plank that the Trout Party supports, and that's why I'm so thankful that I not only get to represent the Trout Party, but also 2 other parties. And I think in order to make our party system more like the real world, we need to allow delegates to choose their parties. In the real world, you don't take a survey and they say, oh, you're a Democrat, you're a Libertarian. You get to choose your party based on what the party believes itself. So I think in the future, we should have delegates choose their parties in order to further represent what the real world actually does, and give delegates also the opportunity to educate themselves on issues and what the different parties stand for. So yeah, thank you.
I think that delegates should definitely be able to choose what party they go into because, in the real world, that's exactly what you get to do. I think that it's important that all delegates understand exactly all the planks that all the parties offer, and they're allowed to say, hey, I identify with them the most, let me go with them, and not get stuck somewhere where you feel uncomfortable, feel like you're in a hostile environment, that you don't belong, because personally I've gone through that in my last year's experience. But now, this year, I feel very fortunate to be in a great party that I identify with, but not everyone is as lucky as me. So I want to definitely make sure that everyone is in the right party. I also definitely want to make sure that all the candidates are aware, all the delegates are aware that they're able to switch parties after they're in one in case they change their mind, because no one wants to go through a program feeling uncomfortable and as if they don't belong with the people they're going to be with for the entirety of the NLC. Thank you.
Well, I think the idea of picking political parties by yourself sounds appealing. It ultimately would disadvantage candidates because right now the party system is set up where there's an equal number of delegates per party system. So essentially, if you have one party with 1,000 delegates and one party with 200 delegates, the youth governor candidates or the candidates in that party with 200 delegates would not get the representation they deserve, and that would make our election process even more unequitable. A way that I think that we can make our party polarization end is by putting different political ideologies in different parties. I don't think there should be one political party that's considered the conservative party. I think every party should have an aspect of conservative, Democrat, Republican, whatever they want, because I think that if we don't have political discourse within our parties, the discussions aren't going to be lively. We're not going to have new ideas, a diversity of perspectives. So I think that every party should have that mix of political ideologies rather than centered in one party.
Can I rebut that? Can I do a rebuttal? Oh, you didn't say my name, but. Okay.
You do.
Yeah, I didn't let Aiden do it. Or, no.
If you guys want to hear my rebuttal, I can talk to you after this.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you want to hear my rebuttal?
If you want to hear any of our rebuttals, come up to us afterwards.
We will answer questions.
We're in the later
yeah,
debate.
there's another debate
There's
later,
another
so-
debate. Come to it. It's going to be
12
good.
o'clock here. Be there.
Okay. If you could implement any law on a national scale, what would it be and why?
I think I would make Election Day a federal holiday. I think that right now, our election process disadvantages people from low-income communities. If you have work on Election Day, you can't just take off your job and go because you're feeding your family. Your paycheck, you live paycheck to paycheck, and you can't just take off a day to go and vote. There's been a lot of opposition in our Congress to make Election Day a holiday, and I think that's completely wrong. I think that our elections should be a national holiday because it's a national priority. I think that every person in our country should vote for the President of the United States, should vote for their Congress members, and if we really want to increase voter turnout, that's how we're going to do it. Get every single person involved in elections and help those people from low-income communities have their voices represented. Thank you.
I think the issue of racism in our country is so prominent today. We've been battling racism for as long as we've been alive as a country. And one law that I think we need to just change off the bat is the disparity between crack and cocaine sentencing. That's a law that is implemented on a nationwide level that is direct discrimination against people of color. I think tackling that issue, tackling issues that blatantly, disproportionately hurt certain groups are necessary right now in our country, especially when we're in a time of political polarization and minority groups are being targeted more than ever with voter suppression and gerrymandering. I think we need to empower. I think we need to empower our minorities and we need to promote diversity. And one way we can do that is by changing the way in which crack and cocaine are sentenced among our prisons. Thank you.
I believe if you really want to make change happen, you have to go to the root of the issue. So unlike Piper, I feel that the way to make change happen is to go directly to the 13th Amendment and eliminate the line that says if you are in involuntary servitude, you are used as a slave to the eyes of the state. I don't understand how in the land of the free, we can have something in the basis of what our country was built on, saying that slavery didn't go anywhere. Slavery still exists. And a lot of people still don't understand that literally in the writing that our country was built on, it states in clear text that slavery still exists. I think that portion of the amendment needs to be abolished, and by doing so, it will help eliminate the things that happen after, like private prisons, the crack cocaine, the whole Richard Nixon ordeal, and things like that. Thank you.
Okay.
Why did you decide?
Can I rebut that?
Oh,
Because
yeah,
you said my
totally.
name.
Sorry.
So as much, I totally agree with you that the 13th Amendment needs to be changed in order to make sure that we aren't enslaving people of color via prison system. However, a constitutional amendment isn't a law, and the question asked what law I would change, so I answered with a law, but I do totally agree with you, but yeah. Thank you.
Why did you decide to run for youth governor?
So I entered YNG I did care about politics, but I didn't care about them as much as I definitely do now. Youth in government has changed my aspect on the world. It's allowed me to develop a passion for civic engagement and public service, and I feel as though running for youth governor is my way to give back to the program. But beyond that, I've been in this program for 3 years now, and I've seen so many injustices towards minorities, people with different ideologies, people who are lower income, and I feel that my platform greatly can help people who are marginalized within our program, and I see running for youth governor as a direct opportunity to make the changes that we need to make in our program in order to make it more equitable for all. Thank you.
Why did you decide to run for youth governor?
I decided to run for youth governor because I was pushed by people that support and love me, and I think that going into my junior year, youth governor was the top position, and it was my only year to do so. And I felt that, I had the qualities and the abilities, and I wasn't gonna let the disadvantages that I had stop me from reaching the top. And I always think shoot for the stars and land in the clouds. So I wanted to push myself to be great, to help this program. I felt that I have all the right qualities to be able to make change happen and do the best. I love this program because I love interacting with people. I love talking to you all, listening to your ideas. And I love politics now. This program has introduced me to things I didn't know about. Being a black person, they always tell you that sports and rapping is the only thing you can really do. This program has taught me I can be so much more than that. And I want to instill that in other people, This is something that, academics is not something that's always pushed as like a field of interest for a lot of people. And I just want to help inspire and just be great for you all and just do the best job that I can. Thank you so much.
So outside of just loving politics and loving the political system, I think one of the biggest reasons that I ran for youth governor is because I came from kind of the background that people don't usually run for youth governor. I was from a delegation that's pretty small, and I was on financial aid, and a lot of the time I felt in our program I wasn't represented, and I felt that our program laws and our kind of how our program works didn't represent me. So this year I made the decision. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I decided to go for it because I wanted to be represented in the program, and I wanted someone who would actually change the program for the better and provide policies that help low-income delegates, help small delegations, and make sure caucuses get their voices heard, because a lot of the times people don't feel represented, and that's what I want to do. Thank you.
So, the last question. What is your vision for your time as youth governor?
The last thing, I want to have a lasting impact on youth and government. I want to be remembered as a youth governor that brought immediate change to the program. Ultimately, my goal is for the delegates that are in the grades below me to be able to see the changes that I implemented immediately into their next couple years in the program. I want to leave my mark on this program by making it as inclusive as I can and making sure that everyone here is enjoying it to the full extent that we all deserve. So that's my main goal, just to make this program. I want everyone to love and just enjoy this program as much as I can, inspire you to run, inspire you to do this. Don't be worried about the fact that it comes from a small delegation. That stuff shouldn't stop you from trying, That's the whole point. The whole point, like the spirit fingers and stuff like that, people are here to support you, whether or not you think that or not, they're here to support you. I want you guys to know that, we can definitely do this, and I ultimately want to make the program more inclusive. So thank you.
So as youth governor, I want to fundamentally change how this program is run. I think right now, a lot of the time, the delegates that are often misrepresented don't have that opportunity to make a change in the program, and a lot of stuff that happens in youth government doesn't go to the real world. So one of the ways specifically with the legislative day, if our bills from YNG were enacted into real state legislation, we would actually have that impact on the real world. And a lot of the time we hear youth governor candidates talk about what they want to do in the program and how they're going to do it and everything's going to be perfect once they're youth governor. That's not realistic, and I understand that. I understand that you have to lay the frameworks for the future and basically start something new. If you want to do, for example, when I want to change the Alumni Association, I know that I'm not going to make YNG affordable for everyone and make YNG tuition free in the first year, but it starts with laying the groundworks and making our program better, so those people will eventually, in 10, 15 years, be able to have tuition free YNG. Thank you.
Right now, I think Youth in Government is a great program, but it's not equitable for all. I think the social politics that exist within our program and the actual policies that are in place definitely favor certain types of delegates over others. If you have more money, if you are a white person, if you are not a queer person, I think if you're from a big delegation, I think there are so many systems of privilege that lie within our program. And I know that these systems of privilege exist in the real world too, but we are a model legislature in court, not a mock legislature in court. So I think by implementing policies that empower caucuses, that empower small delegations with the small delegation caucus, and empower lower income delegates, we can finally create a YNG that is equitable for all, and we can finally show the real government how it should be done. Thank you.
Okay, so that's it. Right. And that's the last question. So. Woo!
We're done.
That's it. Okay, thank you for coming.
All right. Stop recording?
Yeah.